SR Fitness 365, episode 6 with Kirsty. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
My first female on the podcast.
Woohoo, representing.
You are repping. So yeah, I want to get you on, obviously, because I follow what you do and I love what you do, and I've got loads of questions that I want to throw at you, and it looks like other people have got questions. You're actually requested on by one of my own clients, funny enough, which is interesting. And obviously I've had your husband on, Kieran, as well, so it'd be quite interesting to get your side of it. I'm sure it's very similar, but to get your side of things as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to jump in at the deep end. Normally I go like, what got you into fitness and stuff like that, but I want to go at a different approach, because I think potentially your answers to some of the questions, so I put it out on my poll, like, that you're coming on, is there any questions? I think this would be a good way to kind of break the ice, but also I think you'll answer some of the questions that maybe would come up later on, so it'd be interesting to get them out. The first one I get regularly from my female clients, but it'd be interesting to get your point of view. So this is the first question. I want to grow mainly my legs and my bum, but I don't want to drink protein shakes and get bulky. What should I do?
Oh, okay. So, oh my goodness me. So first of all, a protein shake is just a source of protein, just like any other source of protein: chicken, eggs, turkey, tofu, whatever other source of protein is. So a lot of people have this stigma around protein shakes, that they don't want to drink protein shakes because they're going to get huge muscles. If it was as easy as that. Hey, Scott.
I've got a supplement store, so I'll just be necking all the shakes.
Exactly. Protein is a very convenient way to consume protein. Protein powder is a convenient way to consume protein, of course. So if you are on a budget and you want a high protein meal, it's a great source of protein, because it doesn't require cooking. It can just be blended, etc. So that's a great way to get a good amount of protein in. It's very difficult to the only way you're going to get bulky or gain weight is by being in a calorie surplus. So by training your lower body, by progressively overloading your lower body, you're not going to get bulky unless you are in too much of a surplus, in which case you're going to gain too much body fat. So a lot of people think if they just eat loads of protein and train, they're going to just get massive muscles and bigger, but actually it's a lot harder than that. So a good approach would be to look at your diet, make sure that you are consuming the correct macronutrients for your goals, and make sure you're getting adequate protein in whatever way, shape or form that might be. It might be with protein shakes or not.
That was a lot simpler than the way I tried to explain it, because I have it probably on a weekly basis. You probably have it more like daily. But once you've educated them that is the case, it's a little bit of a smoother ride. But it's just hard that everyone has that perception of, if you lift weights and then have a protein shake, you just get massive. And like I said, if only if it was that easy.
I know. If only if it was that easy, we would be much bigger. I would be much bigger than I am right now. But I like to explain it as a protein shake is essentially a powdered chicken breast in a different form. It gives you the same thing.
That's a great way of doing it, because like some of my clients, for example, they're like office based, and it's a lot more convenient and acceptable, I guess, to have a protein shake middle of the day than to just eat on a chicken breast at your desk kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. And if you're on the go or at the gym, if only, it's going to be great to be to have at hand, as opposed to cooking, prepping.
Hopefully that one's been answered. This one kind of ties us on a little bit about like growing and stuff like that. How much does genetics play a part in female bodybuilding? I suppose it's male as well, but on a female perspective.
Oh yeah, no, these are interesting questions. I love these. So yeah, genetics is going to play a part massively. So if you look at some of the top sprinters in the world, or some of the top swimmers in the world, a lot of their top higher elite status is brought about by hard work, by training, but also with added genetics as well. So I think what's really important to remember is that you're dealt a specific card with genetics, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible for you to gain muscle. Some people think, oh, I just don't have the genetics for that, so I'm going to give up. So whereas a lot of people will just have to adjust their diet, will just have to work harder, will just have to work longer, perhaps making sure that they're just on point with their diet and training. But genetics does play a part in anything. It does. But
I
it's
completely
not the
agree.
only part.
I
It's not
completely agree. I think I've actually had people like almost use it as an excuse, like you say, like I'm not going to bother because I've not got good genetics.
Yeah.
And to a degree, like you say, at top level, that genetics sometimes are the difference, but just to improve yourself, the genetics is kind of, like you said, a bit of an excuse to that level. You do just need to work a bit different, train a bit harder, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't let it be an excuse. If you're looking to be a top class bodybuilder in the top 1% of the world, you know, genetics is going to play a little part of that, having an edge over somebody else. But to just change your composition, to just get into good shape, build muscle mass, it's not going to hinder your results. It potentially might be a little bit harder, longer. Your starting point might be different to somebody with a genetic advantage, but actually your progress is still your progress, and it's still your own, you know. So it's no reason to not let it stop.
100%. I've got one more. Interesting, this one. So what's it like standing on stage? I'm planning to compete this year and I'm very nervous.
Okay. So standing on stage,
First timer.
it's the most unreal feeling. It doesn't feel like what you think it feels like. It's very much adrenaline filled. You know, the feeling with your body where initially for the first time, you know, when you feel like you're a little bit out of control of your body and everything's going really quickly. So you'll feel very high speed. You know, you'll want to run through things, you'll want to rush through things, and everything's very much adrenaline filled. A lot of people just think they're just going to be really nervous and not going to be able to do it. That's not the case. Usually you do everything 10 times quicker because of adrenaline, you know, including walking, including posing. So what you've got to practice is breathing and calming yourself down and being in the most relaxed place possible. So I like to dance backstage. So like I'm literally dancing in the wings before I go out onto stage.
Really?
I'm having the best time. Yeah, I'm literally dancing because that's what chills me out. That's what relaxes me. Some people are like breathing, other people take their like headphones and like listen to music. So it's very adrenaline filled, but it is the most amazing feeling. It really, really is. You do feel on top of the world, like you've just got to a place where, you know, all of your hard work just matters, and that's a really, really fantastic feeling. But my biggest advice is always to a first timer is to slow down, because you'll forget to enjoy the moment if you don't.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. I've not actually stood on stage myself, but obviously I speak to a lot of people. I have friends that do. Maybe in the future, you never know. But the way I see it and the way it looks is it's similar to when I used to box. So like the first time I used to box, it's kind of like you said, the hard work is pretty much done to the build up of the fight, the same as the show. And then it's just that adrenaline. You can't really explain it until you've done it. But I was the same. Like they always say, like just try calm down. And round one, you just go out. My phone is ringing. Is that a joke? Sorry, 2 seconds. Yeah.
Cut.
No way. That never happens. My phone never rings either. There we go. Technology. Don't worry. The guy will mess that about and get it back in. But yeah, I was basically saying, like with a boxing match, it's like straight away, as soon as the bell goes, you just go hammer and you forget everything you've been taught about, like slowing down, and you just knacker yourself out. And is it similar to like boxing? So like your second fight, you learn from the first fight. Is it the same with the show? Like your second show is different?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've never been in a boxing ring myself. I would have done, but well, that's another story. But basically, yeah, so you will feel a lot calmer the second time you do it, which is why I often say to girls to do multiple categories if they can. So if they're entering one of the shows which has multiple categories, I don't get them to just enter one category. I get them to enter as many as they can, especially a show such as Pure Elite, where the only girl who competed last year in Pure Elite because of COVID, she actually entered 5 categories. And the reason was because it's her first show, and she won her pro card and came first, by the way. But anyway, but I got her to do that because it's more stage time, and the more time you spend in an uncomfortable situation, the more comfortable you get.
100%.
With it. So you've got to think of it as if you were put in any uncomfortable situation, like if I told you to go and scuba dive, you know, put your scuba diving kit on and go under the water, you'd probably freak out the first time. I did, I had a panic attack. But the 6th, 7th, 8th time, you get hold of your breathing, you get more comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable, and it's the same situation on stage. It's an uncomfortable alien situation. Even for me, and my background is in dance and performance, so I've spent my whole life on stages, and even for me it was a strange feeling. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you do get with it, and that's the beauty of it though, because a lot of people think, well, I won't start then until I'm ready, until I'm going to nail it, until I'm going to be perfect. Whereas actually you're not going to nail it first time. That's the whole reason for starting. So it's important to look back on your previous performances and be like, oh, I've improved so much since then. And myself and Kieran, we do it all the time. We look back on the first time which we were on stage, and it happened to be in the same show, and we look back and we're like, that's hilarious. It's nothing like how we are now. And it doesn't mean to say like everyone who does their first show is going to look awful. They're not, but I'm not saying that at all. You'll do amazing, but it's about looking back and seeing your own personal progresses and really like enjoying that, because it happens, and it should do. So
100%. No, that's cool. That's kind of like question time out of the way, and it kind of moves us on quite nicely to sort of a little bit of your background and stuff. Like you mentioned just then, like dance and being on stage and stuff. Yeah. How's that all come about that's ended up you being where you are now?
Yeah, well, my whole life I've always been a performer, always been a dancer, and I was actually quite academic in school, in science, and I loved the sciences behind the body and things. If I was more academic and less dance, I would have done something like, I would love to be a doctor or something. But yeah. I love physical movement. I love dance. So I persevered kind of and studied a lot with the sciences, biology, PE, dance, that sort of thing. And I loved the history and the science behind it. So I went to university and I actually did a 4-year dance degree, and which is actually relatively uncommon for a dancer to do a degree. It's kind of seen as the more academic route, which is in the dance world is not great if you want to be a performer. But I didn't want to be a performer anyway. That kind of world for me wasn't I didn't want to pursue that. So I went and did my degree, and I loved it, and it definitely taught me a lot, but not just physically but also academically as well, which has helped me where I am now as well. So it was good fun. But I've always loved performing, and it's one of the reasons why I stepped into competing, because I did a beauty pageant in 2013, and I was in Miss England, which is obviously the biggest beauty pageant in the country. It had several different categories, and essentially I wasn't great at all the categories, but I was like, okay, I want to win one. I want to win one category. What can I train for? What can I study for? I'm very much a strategist. I'm like, how can I strategize this? And that happened to be the fitness round. So I was like, right, I can train for this. I can beat all of these girls, if there's 62 girls, I can beat them all if I just train really hard, because there's some things that are out of my control, like obviously with a beauty pageant, it's like how you look and how you speak and that sort of thing. And some of those things I wasn't as good for and didn't feel like I could train for. But I found that during that competition, I was much better at the fitness round than I was any other round.
Okay. To be honest, I'm not too clued up on pageants. I don't know about structure. But what do you do in this fitness round then? Is it just more like how your physique is and stuff?
It was essentially a boot camp, and this is kind of where my love for boot camps really just rocketed, because it was a military boot camp, a company called Regiment Fitness, and it was the most brutal to this day, the most brutal session I've ever done in my life, because it was like a knockout round, so you had to get to the end. Okay. So they had us all in like a circle and made us do squat thrusts, but literally shouted in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, until like they got like a certain amount out. And then it was all these different rounds, which was knockout. And one was a squat hold, competition, so who could hold the squat hold the longest, and then they knocked out loads with that. So here you are, like legs like trembling, and then you've got to go on to the next round. It's not like that was it. And then it finished with 1 minute of burpees, and I think there was 8 of us and left, and we were all back to back when we did this burpee round, and we had to do as many burpees as we could in 1 minute, and you couldn't see the other person, so you were back to back.
Okay.
So you literally just had to go for it and hammer it. And I remember not being able to untie my shoes because my legs were shaking that much, and that to my day was the most I've ever felt like I was literally going to pass out.
Yeah.
But I did it, so
Winner.
So yeah, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Definitely.
But that kind of, I was never like the one in school where I was like really athletic or really, you know, I was the one that was kind of in the changing rooms with the girls chatting, and the teacher would be like, come on girls, I got to do PE, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, I was never like the athletic one. I was never the one that was, you know, gifted and talented or anything like that. I didn't feel that I was top in anything. And that experience definitely showed me that you can do anything as long as you work your ass off for it. It doesn't matter about talent, it doesn't matter if you were born with a skill or genetics or whatnot. If you can work hard, you can do it. And that taught me a lot in my early 20s, which then has helped me now.
100%. So Kieran, obviously your husband, he kind of classed you as a gym bunny. Is that where the HIT thing come about? So you've obviously got your company, the HIT team, haven't you? Not now, obviously. He said when he met you.
Yeah, no, it's funny he said that. Yeah, when we met, I wasn't into weight training at all. Obviously, I trained as a PT. I knew the science behind it. I understood it, but I didn't. I personally loved jumping around, is how he describes it. He says jumping around. To this day, I was like, he just jumped around, and it's essentially because my background was in dance and contemporary dance, where all we do is jump off the floor. You know, all you do is throw yourself around off the floor. Mm-hmm. So the style of weight training to me seems slow and boring. And like, what, you have rest? You have rest periods? Can I not do some burpees during that rest time? You know, what, you do squats and then you just stop? You know, and I obviously understood the principle, but for me, I was like, oh, this is so boring. You know, so it was him who really pushed me into training, because he was like, look, if you train properly and stop jumping around, you can actually build some muscle, but you're not going to build any muscle looking like doing this. And at the time I wasn't really interested in building muscle, which is the reason why I wasn't doing it, because I wasn't too fussed. All of my training was performance based. It was nothing to do with how I looked at all. I couldn't give two hoots with how I looked. As long as I felt good and I felt fit, I didn't really care. So when you move into the bodybuilding space, it becomes more about aesthetics. And when it's about aesthetics, you have to be more strategic. And I started to love it because I started to see progress with it. And he really did encourage me to pursue it, because I was good at it. So he was like, if you just slow down.
Slow down your reps.
Yeah. So I did have to slow down, but that was where I started.
So how was that transition from, obviously you've got like a HIT style boot camp business? Did you kind of have to come away from, I don't know how active you are when you teach it, but at the moment we all are very active when we teach it, but was it more a case of you go there, you train them that way, but then you go and do your thing your way?
I very much integrated it. So I very much implemented it into my own training. I didn't stop doing it at all. It's just I did it less. There was a time where I was doing 2 HIT sessions a day, and I would train myself, I would train my clients. Wow. And I would just be moving all the time, you know. And I come from 4 years of 5 hours of dance a day, so a lot of high intensity activity I didn't go from nothing to that. I was always go. So I reduced it. I still did it, but I didn't do it as much, and I didn't overtrain as much. And it caused me some problems initially. I had some problems with my knees because of so much plyometric work, so much jumping, caused some stress on my knees, caused me to, you know, have some IT band problems, and I had to really rehab that and stop jumping so much. And that strengthened over time, and now I don't have any knee problems. I still can train how I used to train. I still love it. But it's about, for me, it's about doing a little bit of what I enjoy without overdoing it. And as long as I'm fueling correctly and training correctly, I also compete in a category which isn't, I don't have to push body weight too high. I don't have to build so much. I'm not looking to grow that much. So to be able to implement HIIT keeps me mobile, and it also keeps me fit as well. But I definitely do a lot less.
I completely agree. So like, obviously I teach a lot more HIIT-based stuff.
Yeah.
Not my style of training. And then COVID decided to happen, and I've had no choice but to do 4 or 5 HIIT sessions a week.
Yeah.
Which, the benefits of it are, like you say, keeping yourself fit, mobile, agile, but then still trying to train how you want to train. Whilst doing that, it can have the negative effect. And that's what I've found recently. Like, you have almost having to like eat to accommodate the extra calories that you're burning through the HIIT style of things and stuff. And is that why you've kind of branched out to getting some help on the fitness side, on the HIIT side, so you can continue doing your stuff?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a case of time for me with boot camps and things, because my boot camp got big, and obviously not now. At the moment it's non-existent, thank you to COVID. But it got very big, and also my demand for online grew, and I was also then trying to prep myself and also have a life, which was very difficult, and everything very much got on top of me to where I didn't think I was firing on all cylinders and giving everyone my best. And I'm that type of person that I have to feel like I'm giving my best to something, or I'm not doing it. So, you know, I felt it was important for me to have help with coaching my sessions, for someone else to come in and coach some of my sessions. I also had very, very excited, willing friends who wanted to do it and be involved with it because they loved it so much. It was the 2 of my friends who, one doesn't coach for me right now. She's just had a baby. Well, she's not just had a baby, but her baby's 1 now. She did just have a baby. And the other one, they were both very involved with it anyway. So I was like, well, why not? It's just people I trust. I know that they're going to do it justice. So why not? So I have had help with that, just purely to put focus. And this was pre-COVID times, just purely into give online my attention, because the demand was growing beyond my control, which I don't want any violins. I'm not getting the violin out. It's not like the worst case situation. I was just too busy, you know. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, poor Kirsty. No,
it's not a bad problem to have, is it?
It's not a difficult problem to have, but that's the reason why I did get help, because I'm very much a perfectionist. If I feel like I'm not doing something to the best of my ability, then I'm like, okay, you need to sort yourself out. You need to do something.
I completely agree. It's kind of like a little bit of an issue I had, like you say, not at the moment, but it was growing to a point I was like, I'm not servicing this now how I want to service it. Like, it can't be 1-to-1 to 40 plus people at a camp. And it's kind of like, you need to get some help. But trust is, like you said, that big word, is finding someone with the same kind of work ethic as you, and not necessarily I do want them to treat the business as their own, but it's hard to find that. And there's a lot of people that will chuck something in your back if you kind of what's the word, like, you give them their trust and they use it as a way of kind of using you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the 2 girls, Georgina and Abby, who have run sessions for me, I very much trust them. You know, I trust them to look after my dog. I trust them to do it, like to do other things too, as friends. So and although they say you should never work with your friends, it worked out in the sense that I had 2 people who I very much trusted with my business. Because when you start a business like that, and you're going to know this, it's your baby. It's it means a lot to you. So it's not just like opening your 100th store where, you know, a manager's going to go in and other people are going to go in. You're not opening your 100th store, your 50th, 60th store. You are handing over your pride, your joy, everything you've worked for, in my case for 7 years, and trusting someone else with that. It's not easy. It isn't easy. It's very difficult.
My first trouble was when I went away on holiday, and I was feeling guilty for going away.
Yeah.
I was like, I think there was a bit of a time difference as well. I don't know where I was, and I was like on my phone, like set an alarm to make sure they were up for the 6 a.m. boot camp. Honestly, it was driving me mad. I learned to let go a little bit, and then COVID hit and whatever. But kind of ties us on quite nicely to your online team. Like you said, the demand was there, and you wanted to give it more attention. And ultimately, you can help more people. Like geographically, with a camp, it's based in one location or a couple of locations, but then tend to be quite close together. You've got a certain radius that you can help, but with online, is sky's your limit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I never kind of planned it either. I never was like, I'm going to be this. I was an online coach before online coaching was cool, do you know? I never planned it. It just ended up as a demand, and that demand then grew. And as it grew, I just loved it. So, and everyone else loved it. So it grew from demand, and I never kind of thought, this is what I'm going to do. You know, it just grew out of demand, and that was, I think that's the most organic way to start something.
100%, I completely agree. Like, you can put your all into a goal, but sometimes you just got to let things roll out, especially like with COVID again. I didn't even once think that I'd go turn online, but you just got to adapt as the situations come. And then it's turned out to probably be one of the best decisions that's happened to me. And I was saying to someone on a previous podcast, I wouldn't wish COVID on anyone or anything ever again, but it's kind of spinned my business kind of 180 now to open up more doors, which is really good.
Oh, completely. And for you know, people like yourself who are clearly very good at what you do, you're always going to be able to do that. I mean, in the sense that that's a good thing, because the people who are just in it, you know, for the short fix or are not passionate about it, they won't last. So it's great for people such as yourself who are really passionate about it, because you're going to be able to do that, and you're going to think, right, how do I make this work for my clients? How do I give a service as good as what I've been doing? And you're able to do that because you care about it. And I think that's the most organic way to grow. So the most organic way to build that foundation. 100%.
I agree. Appreciate the kind words. That was something that kind of drew me to yourself and Kieran, actually, in terms of the way that you work. Like, you don't even have to say the word. It's so obvious that you care about your clients, which kind of moves me on to like the community word that I've seen you use a lot. Is like, a lot of your clients are very friendly, have made bonds, haven't they, through your coaching?
Oh yeah, completely. I talk about it a lot, and it probably bores people's ears off, but I talk about how, I always talk about, if you shout about what you're passionate about, what you love, your attitudes, your values, if you stick to what you believe in, and if you're not shy about what you want and what you believe in, you attract other like-minded people to you. And that's the same with my team. I had a consultation call with one of my new girls. I'm going to talk about her because she's one of my newer ones, but she's from Australia. So she's from the other side of the world. Okay. And when I was talking to her, she was like, you say this and you say this, and I believe in this. And she was literally, it felt like talking to myself, because I was like, wow, like, we are connecting on a wavelength where our attitudes and values align, like our beliefs align. And she's just like the perfect client for me, because she was watching what I've been shouting about, and she's like, I believe in that. I love that too. I love that approach. And when you do that, you bring more like-minded people together. So someone said to me, I think it was about a year ago, she was like, one of my clients, she was like, it's like you've hand selected these people to come on board your team. And that made me think, I'm like, why is that? Why does it seem like I've handpicked these girls? Because I haven't. To a certain extent, I have a choice on who I take on, of course. Yeah. But why is that? Why are they all so like-minded? And it's because, I know it's because of how I speak and how I voice what I believe in and my approach, and that then draws similar people to me, which are then like-minded themselves. So that kind of community element is really, really important to me, because not everyone will like the same approach, not everyone will enjoy the same things. But if you've got your tribe of people who love what you love, then it's perfect and it's golden. And sometimes you don't have that in your immediate life. So I always talk about your work environment, your social environment, your family environment, and your online environment. These four different environments. Some things you can't control. So you might not control the people who you work with. You definitely can't control your family to a certain extent. Your friendship groups a little bit, but if you're getting support from an online group or an online support system, you feel much more lifted because their attitudes and goals align with yours. So it doesn't matter that other people aren't on your journey. If you've got a supportive network of people who are, then that's really, really helpful, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's something that I echo as well. I think it's slightly different the way I approach things, because obviously it's one-to-one. So they get that one-to-one element from you, but it's also about like almost picking each other up and stuff, like almost like a team. Like you say, you've got it as a team, as your brand. But that's something I've started to push a lot more as I've been growing forward in my coaching journey. Is it's all well and good having that one-to-one approach, but sometimes having everyone around you, like we've now got like a group and stuff like that, and it's like I can just sit back and they all will lift each other up, which is amazing, because I can't always be there to lift every single one of them up at the same time. And like you say, surrounding yourself with like-minded people is the best way to do it. It's a recipe for disaster if you're hanging around people with not the same sort of goals as you, which is good. Should we touch on the on you and Kieran then whilst we're doing it? So you like-minded circle and stuff. I'll ask yourself like similar questions to him. There's more positives, isn't there, to any negatives really?
To be doing a similar thing?
Yeah,
a lot of people think, how on earth do you live like that? This is a strange relationship. We're both kind of obsessed with fitness and training and food. I guess the conventional things that people do, we don't do, and that's what people find strange, like eating together, like a simple thing where a family or a couple will sit down and have dinner time and then they eat together. We don't do that, which people find really strange. We eat completely different diets, and a lot of that means eating at different times. Which a lot of people are like, how? Like, that's weird. And during certain times we don't go out to dinner, and we do sacrifice celebrations and that sort of thing, but because we get it, we understand. So for example, I'll give you an example. My niece, who is, she's now 5, she's coming up to 5 now. At this time, Kieran, on her first birthday, Kieran was on prep. And so it was my niece's his niece's first birthday, because we're married. And we were going to her birthday party, cake and buffet. He's on prep. He needed to take his Tupperware to her first birthday party, and he needed to take it. And a lot of partners wouldn't have understood that, you know, him sitting eating chicken and broccoli when everyone is celebrating having birthday cake, and his young niece is like excited to see him and stuff. He's got to sit and eat this chicken and broccoli. And a lot of people in relationships might be like, well, were you not upset by that? Like, you can't enjoy the celebration and things. Whereas actually, I understand what he's going through, and actually it doesn't affect anyone else's life. And I always say this about when other people try to influence what you eat, it's not affecting them. It's not affecting your colleague, what you're eating it. So, because I understand that, it makes it a hell of a lot simpler, and it means that it does work. Whereas if we did completely different things, I think that it would probably cause a little bit of conflict at some point.
Yeah, you can see that, especially like you probably know as well, like with clients and stuff. There's one thing understanding it, there's another thing getting it. And it's like, if they're supportive in what you do, like you say, it doesn't affect a partner or a friend or a family member what they're doing, but they still want to chuck in their 2 pence sometimes. And that's the good way of looking. What about your shop then? Do you shop separately, or is it just one massive list?
We shop completely separately.
Really?
Best believe I'm not paying for his shopping list.
Yeah, especially he's been bulking for 3-4 years.
The guy eats 5,000 calories a day.
You might be on similar calories before a few weeks, though. You never know.
Yeah, no, our shop is completely different. So yeah, that's the same sort of scenario. Do you not go around the supermarket together? Do you not like? No, which again is different to some people, but it works because we understand. So
no, that is good. That's really good. What about so I asked him as well, and I won't tell you his answer. You might have already seen it, but what about like the competitive element? Is there any there?
Do you mean like who's better than who?
Not necessarily who's better, but like, are you competitive you must be competitive because you're a competitive person, in like your DNA, but is it in terms of like competitive on a day-to-day thing of getting even just small things like getting jobs done and things like that?
No, we're not actually. I would doubt if he said we're competitive at all.
Didn't, to be fair. Like even like, I don't know, like a flip of a coin, would you want to beat each other?
He's more of a competitor than me. I'm very, very, very laid back. So, and I've always been this way ever since I was a child. You get me doing a team sport and I'd try, but if we didn't win, I'd be like, no, okay, whereas if we played a game of football, he'd be like, we're winning, So I think the mindset's very different. The reason why I became a dancer was because I had to do it by myself, I'm very competitive in that respect. And obviously in competitive sport, you have to want to win, but we do different things and we compete in completely different federations with completely different requirements. He's male, I'm female, like it's very, very different. So, and competitiveness, like I guess like he'd know I'd win at everything anyway, even though I am quite laid back.
Old statement there, that'll have to come out on a response to that one.
I'm only joking.
So moving on to your like bodybuilding journey. Now he claims that he got you into it, so that's his claim. And then obviously you overtook and got your card before him, but I'll leave that down to you guys. But yeah, how did that come about then? Was it similar to what Kieran said? You kind of saw him to a show and said you fancy a bit of that?
Yeah, well actually our first show was the same time.
Okay.
So we actually competed in our first show at the same time, which is
the Lake and Heath one.
Yeah, no, it was actually the Anglian bodybuilding show, which was, to be fair, I don't know if the Lake and Heath one was before mine. It might have been slightly before, but it was the same sort of time, and we competed in the same show, so it might have been his first or second, I can't quite remember, but it was in the same summer. And the Anglian bodybuilding show, which is not a federation, but it's a very long-standing show, or was a long-standing show in East Anglia, and we both won. So he won his category and I won mine, which was pretty unreal to win together, and it will never happen again. So
I saw you YouTube that series, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think I actually saw it.
Well, we look back at that and we're like, what on earth were we doing? We didn't know half of it. But yeah, that's a different story. But no, yeah, he did have a big influence in me competing. I'd been on stage in a bikini because I'd done various beauty pageants. I'd also done a beauty pageant in Egypt, which was very much, it was very bikini, but it wasn't anything to do with building a certain physique. So it's actually quite interesting when I look back at photos of before I started weight training.
Sure.
Obviously still training, but not weight training, and then recent competitions, it's like looking at a different person. But yeah, no, he did have a massive influence in it, and without him saying you could do that, Kirsty, I probably wouldn't have done, especially within the federation I now compete in, because of the stature of it and because of how well known it is. And I remember looking through pictures of one of the world champions in the WBFF when I was at university, thinking, how do people look like that? That's got to be genetics. I was one of them people who was like, Brazilian, it's got to be a genetics, So to kind of have that encouragement is really important from your other half, and he definitely did do that. And obviously he's very knowledgeable too. He lives, eats and breathes it. So obviously then that helped, but his encouragement was really
100%.
very important.
So then moving through your journey, you went ahead and got your card, didn't you? Your pro card.
Yeah, it was a point where I had within my first year of competing, I had a big choice to make, and that was which route I went down with, which shows I was going to do. My coach at the time was an IFBB pro Olympian, and I had a lot of friends who were IFBB. Karina also, who went to Olympia, she's like one of the highest ranking British IFBB pros in the world.
Yeah.
And had a lot of influence there. And I remember Karina saying to me, look, if you're going to compete in IFBB, we need to shrink those legs. We need to shrink those quads. You know, you're going to have to diet and we're going to have to lose some muscle. And I was a lot smaller than I am now. So to be told to shrink, I didn't like it. I was like, I've worked so hard to build my legs. I don't want to shrink it. I don't want to shrink them. So I kind of did a turn to kind of go towards model style shows, because I could do bikini, but I could also have more muscle and I wouldn't have to shrink. Words, not mine. And I got a big opportunity actually to go to Italy and compete in an IFBB show. And at this time, they were giving out or starting to give out more IFBB pro cards than they do now.
Yeah.
So my coach at the time was like, this is going to be a really big opportunity for you. There's not going to be many people here. There's not going to be like, people aren't going to know about this yet. You know, you could go and do this, or you could go and do what you want to do, sort of thing. So I was very much had this turning point during my first year of competing where I needed to decide what I wanted to do. Yeah. Needed to know which route I was going to go down. And so I went towards model style shows, and I competed in Pure Elite before I competed in WBFF. So Pure Elite was in the April, and I decided since this is the December. Pure Elite was in the April, and WBFF was in the May. So I decided to do Pure Elite as a warm-up show. Again, for the reasons that I explained at the beginning, where you can have, if you have more times on stage, you get more comfortable with it. So I was like, okay, so if I can do this as a show before I do the one I really want to do, then I'll hopefully I've got those nerves out the way. So I did the fitness category in Pure Elite. So not bikini, I did fitness. And I came second. Okay. And I also won my Pure Elite pro card. Although I was over the moon with that, that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted my WBFF pro card, and I knew it was going to be difficult to get. So not disregarding the standard of that show, because it is so high, and it is even higher and getting higher in any show now. But I knew WBFF, they didn't give out as many pro cards, and there's only 2 shows a year, and sometimes even the first place they don't give out pro cards. So it was a lot harder to do better in that show, because you have obviously rules of probability. You've got less chance. Yeah, definitely. So in the May show, I did fitness again, and I was in the fitness category. And this is really important. My coach was at the time was amazing. She's fantastic, but she was very much an IFBB pro coach. I did fitness, and I was backstage. And for those people who know model style shows will know someone called Christina Silva, who was one of a very high ranking British bikini pro. She came up to me and she grabbed my shoulders and she was like, oh, you look incredible. Like, I think you're going to win today. You're doing bikini, right? And looked at me like that. And I went, no, I'm doing the fitness category. And her face literally went, oh, literally dropped. And I was like, shit. I mean, sorry, can I swear on here? I know. I was like, am I in the wrong category? And I went on stage in fitness and I came top 5. But I spoke to one of the judges after the show, and they said to me, look, if you were in bikini tonight, you would have won and you would have got your pro card. Really? How'd that make you feel? I was like, wow. I wasn't like, okay, this was the worst experience in the world, because it wasn't, because it was a really good experience. I still loved it. But I was like, right, I'm doing November show. And I'm going to go in bikini and I'm going to win. So I then had blinkers on till the November show, and that's when I actually won my pro card, because I was in the right category.
Everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? And if that conversation didn't come about with the lady you just mentioned, maybe you wouldn't have gone down that path and you wouldn't be a pro. You just don't know, do you? So
yeah, I mean, it was actually one of the judges, and one of the judges' wives, who was head of the makeup team, emailed me that night, and she was like, look, I need to tell you this because you need to move categories.
yeah.
So it was quite clear that I was in the wrong category and I needed to move. But again, I had to kind of go through that journey of perhaps being in the wrong place, making a decision of what route I wanted to go down, and really stick to what I wanted. Because if you don't, you can end up, I always like to say, you can't hit a moving target. So you've got to have your eyes on what you want in order to be able to hit that target. And I needed to do that, and I did do that in the November, and it was unbelievable. So
definitely. For like novices that are not too sure, what is the key differences between like fitness and bikini?
So the difference is mainly is the condition that you are, but it's also the size of your lower half in particular. So bigger quads, bigger legs, particularly more defined abs. So bikini has some ab outline, but is not as defined and dry as fitness. Whereas fitness is bigger, but also the condition is more. So not so much to figure, where figure is probably the equivalent of like figure in an IFBB show, but fitness is very much it is a lot bigger, but also a lot more conditioned as well. Whereas bikini is still conditioned but smaller.
You have to be completely shredded, do you?
No, but not as small as IFBB bikini, which is even smaller than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's fine margins, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, exactly. It goes down to and if someone's interested in competing, it's really important to speak to a coach who is affiliated or associated with the federation or organization that you want to compete with, because it's likely that they know the judges, they know the criteria, and they have all of the information to know what to give you to deliver. And that, I think, is really important.
Yeah, 100%. So what about kind of like the major differences for you between when you're on a prep for a show and when you're not?
The main difference is the amount of food I'm eating.
Yeah, true.
Training wise, there's not so much of a difference. One of my I went to Vegas and competed in Worlds in the pro division, and my prep for that, I was on literally steps only. I was doing like the least amount of cardio I've ever done, and I was also the leanest I ever was. So the main difference for me is diet, and it's about controlling that diet, and that is literally the biggest difference. Training differences, not massive. Obviously on prep I've got less energy, so I have less to give with regards to HIIT workouts and things. It's very, very, very difficult.
Telling me.
Very difficult. And obviously then when I'm not on prep, which is the majority of the time, I'm able to give more energy into what I do. But training wise, not so much, mainly diet.
Yeah, completely agree. So for yourself then, what's kind of like your own personal future plans for competing and etc.?
So I want to go back to the World Show, which is in Vegas again. The show's in August, and it's
you never know.
So that was always my plan, but obviously I'm not entirely sure whether we're going to be able to travel this year, especially to the US. But that's still my plan. If that goes ahead or not, who knows? The world will let me know, I suppose.
Definitely. Play it by ear, haven't you?
I came second in Europe in 2018 in the pro chef category as well. I love that show. I want to beat that ranking, so which means I either win a regional title or rank in the world show. So personally, for my competitive career, that's where I want to go. But I also do want to retire essentially, and I want to hand down my knowledge to the girls who do want to also compete within that show and that federation, and also do well with it. And I want my success to pass down to them as well, because obviously as a pro I'll only compete for so long, but at the end of the day I can help people who want to get there as well. So that's
exactly, with your own experiences and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And that kind of excuse me, passes it on to like your future for your business and stuff. Is it very much everyone kind of either naturally just falls into a niche or actually pursues a niche? Is yours very much now going to be sort of female bodybuilders, and but like even from first timers all the way up?
So a small proportion of my clients are interested in competing, a very small proportion. The majority of my clients are like-minded women who want to change their composition. We do things like photo shoots and meetups. So even if you're not interested in getting on a stage, you can still have that almost performance element goal to it. So I guess it is a goal-driven thing, but not everyone will want to compete on stage within shows. I've very much fallen into the model style show niche, which I love, because it means that I can keep their calories a little bit higher than they would if I was doing bodybuilding shows. That it's a more attainable look, etc. Less of a reverse out, which is nice for for females, and also that it's able to kind of go hand in hand with also my other events like photo shoots and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't say I'm solely a model style prep coach. It's a very small proportion of what I do. But in terms of female empowerment and getting people together and gatherings hopefully in the future,
you never know,
that's very much the direction. But there's it's not just competitors I coach, but women, I do have a women only team.
Yeah, touch on that actually. I think you've explained it to me before, but what is the main reasons why you did that?
The main reasons why I'm a women only online team, in-person boot camps, no, obviously very, very mixed. But the reason why I did that was because I found that women supporting women, the conversation is different. And it's also really helpful. I always like to say, like, everyone has the same problems and situations, it's all just re-DJ'd. So when you get women relating to women, I think that it's really powerful. It's not that I don't like men or anything like that, or can't coach men, because I can, but I can only help a certain amount of people. So to narrow down that amount of people that I am helping makes everyone even more like-minded, which I think is important, because, and this is a piece of advice I have to anyone who is trying to pursue an online coaching career: you can't help everyone. So you need to visualize who exactly you want to help and what you want to specialize in, and think about the problems that they have and everything that you can support them with. So by narrowing down who I help, I can help them more. So that's the reason for that.
No, that's a good bit of advice. I completely agree with you. I've had the same kind of transition. You don't know at the first. I didn't want to turn away anyone that I could help, because it's not saying that you can't help them, but like you say, you do almost like niche into a market, don't you? And that way you can give more to them people.
Oh, completely. And you evolve, and you might change what you're doing and or adjust what you're doing, and it might not be for some people, but that's okay. However many billion people there are in the world, you can't help everyone. And when you're talking about an online world, there is literally billions out there, so you're going to want to attract what you want to create 100%. So
amazing. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing some stories with me. I've learned a lot from it as well, and I'm sure some people will learn from it as well. And maybe we'll do like a second season of the podcast, maybe like a few months down the line when things are a bit more normal. We can find out how the transition's gone and your journey's going.
I'd love that. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. You take care. Best of luck. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.